So, good day everyone. I'm GARCIA. So, I'm here to tackle lesson 1, learning to be a better learner. So, knowing the self is not enough, since who you are is partly made up of your choices. You must also have ability to choose, especially to be a better you. In school, setting your knowledge of yourself should at least enable to become a better student. Learning should not just learn studying of your quizzes and exams in school. Learning could also occur outside the confines of a book or classroom, like you want to acquire a new move in your favorite sport or skills of a certain hobby, among others. We are Homo sapiens, or the wise men. We think in a more complex level than our ancestors, and the most of it, not all of the other beings, but being called wise. Not only do we think, but we are also capable to think about thinking, like we think of things and we think a certain way about things. It's like your brain thinks about itself and thinks about how it thinks about itself. So, this idea falls under the concept of metacognition. Metacognition is commonly defined as thinking about thinking. Livingstone, 1997, Luca, 2003. It is the awareness of the scope and limitation of your current knowledge and skills. Baum, 1985, in American Institutes for Research, 2010. Due to this awareness, metacognition enables the person to adapt their existing knowledge and skills to approach a learning task, seeking for an optimum result of the learning experience. American Institutes for Research, 2010. So, metacognition is also not limited to the thinking process of an individual. It is also includes keeping one's emotions and motivations while learning in check. Luca, 2003. Some people learn better when they like subject, some when they are challenged by the topic, and others if they have a reward system each time they finish a task. The emotional state of a motivation of a person then should also be in preferred ideal state that a person in order to further facilitate his or her learning. As seen from the above mentioned definition, metacognition basically has two aspects. So the first aspect is self-appraisal and self-management of cognition. Paris and Winograd, 1990, in Luca, 2003. Self-appraisal is your personal reflection on your knowledge and capabilities, while self-management is a mental process you employ using what you have in a planning adapting to as you successfully learn or accomplish a certain task. So, Paris and Winograd, 1990, in Luca, 2003, similar concepts, usually called elements of metacognition, are metacognitive knowledge, or what you know, how you think, and metacognition regulation, or how you adjust your thinking process to help you learn better. American Institute for Research, 2010. Under metacognitive knowledge, there are several variables that affect how you know or assess yourself as a thinker. First is the personal variable, which is your evaluation of your strengths and weaknesses in learning. Second is the task variable, which is what you know or what you think about the nature of the task, as well as what strategies the task require. Lastly, strategy variable refers to what strategies or skills you already have in dealing with a certain task. American Institutes for Research 2010. However, it must be noted, in the order to make self-appraisal and self-management work, you must have accurate self-assessment. You must be honest about what you know and capable in order to find ways to utilize your strengths and improve on your weakness. So that is all about my topic. And the second reporter is...
Good day everyone, I am RHENEE BAWIGA. Today I will discuss to you the continuation of Lesson 1, Learning to be a Better Learner. You are actually utilizing metacognitive skills. According to Waterloo Student Success Office, the following are the other skills that can help you in exercising metacognition. The first is knowing your limits. So, knowing your limits also looks at the scope and limitations of your resources so that you can work with what you have at the moment and look for ways to cope with other necessities. Second is modifying your approach. Recognizing, for example, that you are not understanding what you are reading. You should learn to modify your strategy in comprehending your material. You might want to read and reread the page in 5 minutes intervals instead of trying to finish the material in one sitting. You may want to make a summary or code for yourself instead of using keywords or highlighting sections of what you are reading. And the third is skimming. It is also about knowing where to search for such key terms. For example, you might want to look at the introduction first or the abstract. The table of contents can also provide you with a quick guide to the contents of the book. Introductory paragraphs, headings, or subheadings and conclusions can also provide you with an overview of the whole material. This technique works best when you want to get an idea about the contents of a reading material. When you are trying to read through several materials in a limited time frame, or when you want to focus on certain details, among others. Next is rehearsing. This is not just about repeatedly talking, writing, or doing what you have learned, but also trying to make a personal interpretation or summary of the learning experience. And lastly is the self-test. As the name implies, this is trying to test your comprehension of your learning experience or the skills you have acquired during learning. Self-test does not only focus on what you have learned, but also on how you learned it. Other strategies that you need to develop include asking questions about your methods, self-reflection, finding a mentor or support group if necessary, and welcoming errors as learning experiences. Using these strategies, you can at least identify 4 types of metacognitive learners according to Perkins in Cambridge International Examinations 2015. First, the tacit learners. Tacit learners are unaware of their metacognitive processes, although they know the extent of their knowledge. Second, the aware learners. Aware learners know some of their metacognitive strategies, but they do not plan on how to use these techniques. The third is strategic learners. Strategic learners are, as the name implies, strategize and plan their course of action toward a learning experience. And lastly, the reflective learners. Reflective learners reflect on their thinking while they are using the strategies and adapt metacognitive skills depending on their situation. So, there are also other tips that you can use in studying are the following according to Queensland University of Technology Library. Number 1, make an outline of the things you want to learn, or by outlining the things you are reading or doing and the other things you remember. Number 2, break down the task in smaller and more manageable details. Integrate variation in your schedule and learning experience, meaning change reading material every hour and do not put similar topics together. Also include physical activities in your planning. Number 4, try to incubate your ideas. First, write your draft without doing much editing. Let the ideas flow. After a given period, go back to your draft or prototype and you might find a fresh perspective about it. Number 5, revise, summarize, and take down notes. Then reread them to help you minimize cramming in the last minute, especially when you have a weakness in memorizing facts and data. And lastly, number 6, engage what you have learned. On a reading material, for example, highlight keywords and phrases. Write your opinions about the matter on a separate notebook, or create a diagram or concept map. Some people also learn best by copying the key paragraphs word for word. You may want to look for other definitions and compare or contrast materials. Use your knowledge during discussions, just do something about it. That's all for Lesson 1, Learning to be a Better Learner. Now let's proceed to Lesson 2.
So good morning everyone, my name is Vincent TAMPOG. So this is the subtopic lesson 2. Do not just a dream, make it happen. Next. Next slide. So first let's talk about the self-efficacy theory. So what is all about the self-efficacy theory? Self-efficacy is according to psychologist Albert Bandura, who originally proposed the concept, a personal judgment of how well or poorly a person is able to cope with a given situation based on the skills they have and circumstances they face. Self-efficacy affects every area of human endeavor. Self-efficacy refers to an individual's belief in his or her capacity to execute behaviors necessary to produce a specific performance attainments. So self-efficacy reflects confidence in the ability to exert control over one's own motivation, behavior, and social exert control. There are four sources of self-efficacy. So there are performance accomplishments, vicarious experience, social persuasion, and physiological and emotional states. So let's talk about the mastery experiences. The first and foremost source of self-efficacy is through mastery and experiences. However, nothing is more powerful than having a direct experience of mastery to increase self-efficacy. Having a success, for example, in mastering a task or controlling an environment will build a self-belief in the area, whereas a failure will undermine that efficacy belief. To have a resilient sense of self-efficacy requires experience in overcoming obstacles through effort and perseverance. So next is the vicarious experience. The second source of self-efficacy comes from our observation of people around us, especially to people we consider as role models. Seeing people similar to ourselves succeed by their sustained efforts raises our beliefs that we too possess the capability to master the activities needed for success in that area. So the third is the social persuasion. Influential people in our life, such as parents, teachers, managers, or coaches can strengthen our beliefs that we have what it takes to succeed. Being persuaded that possess that capabilities to master certain activities means that we are more likely to put in the effort and sustain it when the problem arises. So the last is the emotional and physiological states. The state that you're in will influence how you judge your self-efficacy. Depression, for example, can dampen confidence in our capabilities. Stress reaction or tension are interpreted as signs of vulnerability to poor performance, whereas positive emotion can boost our confidence in our skills. So next slide. Next. So the next is the Bobodal experiment. So first, what is the Bobodal experiment? The Bobodal is an inflatable toy that is about 5 feet tall and is usually made of soft, durable vinyl or plastic. The Bobodal was most often painted to look like a cloud. The doll was designed to be bottom weighted so that if we are hit, it would fall over and then immediately lift back up to standing position. So the Bobo doll called Bobo was the opposite of menacing with its wide, static grin and goofy clown outfit. But when it was their own turns to place with Bobo, children who witnessed an adult pummeling the doll were likely to show aggression too. Similar to their adult models, the children kicked the doll, hit it with a mallet, and threw it in the air. They even came up with a new ways to hurt Bobo, such as throwing darts and or aiming a toy gun at him. Children who were exposed to a non-aggression adult or no model at all had far less aggression toward Bobo. Bandura's findings challenged the widely accepted behaviorist view that rewards and punishments are essential to learning. He suggested that people could learn by observing and imitating others' behavior. So the next presenter is Mr. Lagi.
So the next
So
presenter.
my name is Lagi and
Next
I'm going to
presenter.
explain to you the fixed and growth mindset theory.
So the next.
So a growth mindset is the understanding that abilities and understanding can be developed. Those with a growth mindset
So the
believe
next.
that they can get smarter, more intelligent, and more talented through putting in time and effort. People with a growth mindset believe that intelligence, skills, learning, and creativity can all grow with time and experience. So example for
The more
students with
difficult
a
to grow,
growth
the greater the
mindset
achievement.
may display the
The more
behavior like
specific
asking the
or
teacher
explicit
to
the goal,
demonstrate a
the
new
more
way to
precisely
do a math
performance is
problem,
regulated.
volunteering answers in class even when unsure, asking a question even if it might seem basic or stupid, seeking out problems that will push them instead of problems that keep them safely within their comfort zone. Next is the fixed mindset. So fixed mindset. On the flip side, a fixed mindset is one that assumes abilities, understandings are relatively fixed. Those with a fixed mindset may not believe that intelligence can be enhanced or that you either have it or you don't when it comes to abilities and talents. Individuals with this mindset believe that they are what they are. So example for this is either I'm good at something or I'm not. I can learn now. It's too late. There's no point in trying if I'm going to fail. I take feedback as a personal attack. I always struggle with. I felt threatened and intimidated by the success of others. And the main difference between the two mindsets is the belief in the permanence of intelligence and ability. One views it's very permanent with a little to no room for change in either direction, while the other views it as more changeable with opportunities for improvement. So next is the goal attributes. Goals have both an internal and external aspects. Internally, there are ideas, desired aims. Externally, they refers to the objects or conditions such a job, a sale, a certain performance level. Example for external goals is you wanna make a certain amount of money this year or you wanna buy a house or a car. It's more those items that you're gonna show to the world. Example for this is the physical objects, friends and family, the destinations, and the achievements. Internal goals are your expectation of yourself. Where do you want to make a space for yourself? Internal goals is like a self-care. Example for this is to become a better person,
Done is
to
report.
overcome personal
This
odds,
is the
to prove
this is the
self-worth,
lesson 3.
to become a hero, to redeem one's good reputation, to accomplish a dream, and to overcome a fear. So next presenter is Mr. Pancho.
So thank you, Mr. Lagi. My name is Jared of PANCHO, and I'm going to discuss the 14 research findings made by Mr. Lack. In 2017, Mr. Lack made a research under the article Motivational Through Conscious Goal Setting. The research has the following findings. Number 1, the more difficult the goal, the greater the achievement. Number 2, the more specific or explicit the goal, the more precisely performance is regulated. Number 3, goals that are both specific and difficult lead to the highest performance. Number 4, commitment to goals is most critical when goals are specific and difficult. Number 5, high commitment to goals is attained when the individual is convinced that the goal is important. Number 6, in addition to having a direct effect on performance, self-efficacy influences the difficulty level of the goal chosen or accepted, commitment to goals, the response to negative feedback or failure. Number 7, goal setting is most effective when there is a feedback showing progress in relation to the goal. Number 8, goal setting along with self-efficacy mediates the effect of knowledge of past performance on subsequent performance. Number 9, goals affect performance by affecting the direct of action, the degree of effort exerted, and the persistence of action over time. Number 10, goals stimulate planning in general. Often, the planning quality is higher than that which occurs without goals. Number 11, when people strive for goals on complex tasks, they are least effective in discovering suitable task strategies. Number 12, goals including goal commitment in combination with self-efficacy mediate or partially mediate the effects of several personality traits and incentives on performance. Number 13, goal setting and goal-related mechanism can be trained and or adapted in the absence of training for the purpose of self-regulation. Number 14, goals serve as standards of self-satisfaction with harder goals demanding higher accomplishment in order to attain self-satisfaction than easy goals. Basically, all these findings goal setting are true, and it might be a helpful tip for us, a student who struggles on deciding a life goal or goals themselves. These 14 research findings are not merely research, but instead it turns out a very factual information and motivation goal setting. If you have if you want if you have one of this mindset, then without a doubt, in the future you can achieve your goal and dream. By having setting goals is very important. Why? Let me give you a reason why it is very helpful to have a goal in life, and maybe you can learn something from this reason. First is goals give you focus. Also help align your focus and promote a sense of self-mastery. Without a goal, your efforts can become disjointed and often confusing. Like for example, if you are writing a script for or you are tasked to make a speech for words of gratitude in your graduation ceremony, but you have no idea where you will start or end the speech, and you don't want to end your goal one disappointment. As I said earlier on findings number 2, the more specific or explicit the goal, the more precisely performance is regulated. So therefore, you need to set goals or objectives to end your speech with good impression to the majority so that they will not be disappointed and they will have something to learn. Number 2, goals help you measure progress. Being able to keep track of your progress toward achieving a goal is only possible if you set one in the first place. Being able to measure progress is extremely rewarding and will help you maintain focus, keep your head held high, and your energy up. It will also keep you from getting down. Number 3, goals help you stay motivated. It is easy to put off work until tomorrow when there is no goal on the line. Like for example, let us consider you are an athlete. You want to get in your shape. You want to get in the shape for upcoming event. You better believe that you are going to be working out each and every day, whether you feel good or not, whether you are sore or not, whether you are tired or not, whether you want to or not, because you have a goal. You achieve even number 4 is you achieve even more. When you set a goal and reach it, it gives you the taste of victory. You will want to taste that again. It also implies on research findings by Locke on finding number 1, which is the more difficult the goal, the greater the achievement. What does that mean? You push yourself towards the next rung of the ladder, challenge yourself to move past another ceiling, you achieve even more. Last is goals help you determine what you want in life. The act of setting goals forces you to complete what you truly want out of life. In this way, you truly get things you want and achievements in your life. It lets you keep focused on achieving your dreams. It is therefore the act of setting, achieving, and surpassing goals that make living your best life possible. So the next presenter is to be led by Mr. AGOCOY.
Thank you, Mr. Jared Pancho. And I am John Mark B. Agocoy, and this is the continuation of Chapter 3, and this is the Lesson 3, Less Stress, More Care. Stress and Human Response. The AIS, or American Institute of Stress, distinguish the different kind of stress and the human respond to it. According to Hans Selye, a man who responds to stress is the body non-specific response to any demand, whether it is caused by or result in pleasant or unpleasant stimuli, which often connotes disease, and eustress, which often connotes euphoria. Let's go into the eustress. The eustress is the positive connotation. Example of this is the marriage, promotion, baby, winning, money, new friends, and graduation. If we have a positive connotation, then we have also a negative connotation, which is the distress. Example of this is divorce, punishment, injury, negative feelings, financial problems, and work difficulties. There are 3 stress syndrome components: the alarm stage, the stage of resistance, and the exhaustion stage. First is the alarm stage. It is represent a mobilization of the body defensive forces. The body is preparing for fight or flight syndrome. Next stage is the resistance. The body become adapted to the challenge and even begin to resist it. And lastly, the exhaustion stage, which is the body dead because it has used up its resources of adaptation energy. And thankfully, only few people experience this stage. And next is the stress disease. Stress diseases are maladies caused principally by error in the body general adaptation process. They will not occur when all the body regulatory processes are properly checked and balanced. Next is the chronic stress. Chronic stress is unpleasant. A stressful incident can make the heart pound and breathing quicken. But there are some techniques to counter the chronic stress. First is the relaxation response. Dr. Hilbert Benson devoted his career to learning how people can counter the stress response by using a combination of approaches that elicit the relaxation response. Most of the research at countering chronic stress have been conducted in people with hypertension and other forms of heart disease. And next is the physical activity. People can use exercise to stifle the building of stress in several ways. Example of this physical activities is like jogging and walking street. And lastly is social support, confidence, friends, acquaintances, co-worker, relatives, spouses, and companions and provide a life-enhancing social net and may increase longevity. And then let's go to the cultural dimension of stress and coping. VINCENT 2010 review studies on cultural dimension of stress and coping. He studied cultural consequence on coping, theories, evidences, and dimensionalities. Co study identified unrevealed, compiling evidence for cultural variation and specificities on coping based on theoretical and empirical findings generated over the last 2 decades cultural coping research. Then let's go to the self-care therapy. The self-care therapy is the positive to counter stress. As you can show at the figure below, it is the example of the self-care therapy. And there are also some provided steps for self-care. First is stop, breath, and tell yourself, this is hard and I will get through this one step at a time. Next is acknowledge yourself what you are feeling. All feeling is normal, so accept whatever you are feeling. Next is find someone who will listen and it's accepting. Then you do not need to advise, you need to be heard. And maintain your normal routine as much as possible. And next, allow plenty of time for a task. And lastly, take good care to yourself. Remember to get enough rest and sleep, eat regularly and make healthy choices, know your limits and when you need to let go, identify or create a nurturing place in your home, practice relaxation and meditation, escape for a while through meditation, reading books, watching a movie, or taking a short trip. Next, boss. And the continuation of discussion in the lesson 3 will be discussed by REYMART GIMENA.
Self-compassion is another way to counter stress. Christine has discussed self-compassion in her article, The Science of Self-Compassion. Self-compassion entails being warm and understanding towards ourselves when we suffer, feel inadequate, rather than flagellating ourselves with self-criticism. It recognizes that being imperfect and experiencing life difficulties and inevitable, so we sought and nurture ourselves when confronting our pain rather than getting angry when life falls short of our ideals. Next one. Self-compassion praises. They provided self-compassion praises when feeling stress or emotion pain. Perhaps when you are caught in a traffic jam, arguing with a loved one, or feeling inadequate in some way. It is helpful to have a set of praises memorized to help you remember to be more compassionate to yourself in the moment. You can take a deep breath, put your hand over your heart, and gently hug yourself. If you are comfortable doing so, and repeat the following phrases. Next one. Self and emotional well-being. One of the most consistent findings in the research literature is that greater self-compassion is linked to less anxiety and depression. Of course, a key feature of self-compassion is the lack of self-criticism, and self-criticism is known to be an important predictor of anxiety and depression. However, self-compassion still offers protection against anxiety and depression. However, self-compassion still for protection against controlling or for self-criticism and negative effect. Next call. Self-compassion, motivation and health. Research support the idea that self-compassion enhances motivation rather than self-indulgence. For instance, while self-compassion is negatively related to perfectionism, it has no association with the level of performance standard adapted for the self. Self-compassionate people aim just as high, but also recognize and accept that they cannot always reach their goals. Self-compassion is also linked to greater personal initiative, the desire to reach one's full potential. Next call.
Self-compassion versus self-esteem. Self-compassion versus self-esteem research indicates that self-compassion is moderately associated with threat levels of self-esteem as one would expect, given that both represent positive attitude toward the self. However, self-compassion still predicts greater happiness and optimism as well as less depression and anxiety when controlling for self-esteem. Moreover, the two construct differ in terms of their impacts on well-being. Also, self-esteem had a robust association with narcissism, while self-compassion had no association with narcissism. Okay, next one. Self-compassion later. An example of self-compassion exercise is the self-compassion letter. This exercise has been used therapeutic programs below the step doing self-compassion letter exercise provided by NIR 2012. We have a four of self-compassion letter. Candidly describe a problem that tends to make you feel bad about yourself, such a physical flu, a relationship problem, or failure at work or school. Note what emotion come up, shame, anger, sadness, fear as you write. 2. Next think of an imaginary friend who is unconditionally accepting and compassionate, someone who knows all your strengths and weaknesses, understand your life story, your current circumstance, and understands the limit of human nature. 3. Finally, write a letter to yourself from the perspective that what would you friend say about your perceived problem? What word is he or she used to convey deep compassion? 4. When you are done writing, put the card down for a while and came back to it later. Then read the letter again, letting the words sink in, allowing yourself to be soothed and comforted. Next one. Less stress, more care. We should be in control of the stress that confronts us every day. Otherwise, when we are overwhelmed by stress, it can be determi- deter- detrimental to our health. Self-care and self-compassion are two ways to positively confront stress. We should love and care for ourselves more and more each day. That's the end of all lesson in chapter 3.